We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? This is the Glory UGA podcast brought to you by our great friends at Alumni Hall. Make sure to check them out for the best selection of Georgia gear that you're going to find anywhere out there. And today on the show, I'm going to break down 5 keys to Georgia football's national championship hopes in 2025. So we're going to dive deep into that today, guys. But before we do that, speaking of deep dives, everything we do here on this channel is designed for all you Georgia diehards. So if that's you, go ahead, subscribe. Turn those notifications on, like, comment, all that stuff, guys. It's a huge help as we continue to grow this channel. But all right, let's go ahead. We've got a lot to talk about today, guys. Let's dive in. And I'm sure most of you have seen this at this point. I think it was released on Monday afternoon. But in the latest sign that the college football season is mercifully just around the corner, the coaches poll is out. No AP poll yet, but for whatever it's worth, we do have a preseason coaches poll. And again, I'm sure most of you have seen this, but the Dogs come in sitting at number 4 to open the season in that preseason coaches poll, which now makes it 8 years in a row that the Georgia Bulldogs enter a college football season ranked inside the top 5 in the preseason coaches poll. So what does that mean? I mean, not much, really. I mean, it's good off-season talking points. It's good fodder, I guess. But what it does mean is that the Dogs are expected to be a serious national title contender yet again in 2025. It means that there are a lot of reasons, legitimate reasons, to be excited about this Georgia football team in 2025. But like every team across the country, no team is immune from this, including the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia still does have some legitimate questions to answer in 2025. So with that in mind, today on the show, I'm going to close out my preseason Georgia football top 5 series. I've been running this for the last 2 months. Got a bunch of these that we've done out there. Top 5 breakout players, sleeper players, top 5 transfers, X factors, a ton of them out there. You can go back and check them out if you've missed them. But today, I'm going to close out that top 5 series by giving you my 5 keys to Georgia's national championship hopes in 2025. 5 things, basically, that I think have to happen if Kirby Smart and his football team want to hoist that national championship trophy in Miami for the 3rd time in 5 seasons. So with that set up, let's go ahead and dive in. Coming in at number 5, and this is something I did talk about a little bit earlier in the week, talking about Noah Thomas and how he's really off to a fast start in fall camp and how that can really help the explosiveness of the Georgia offense get back to being like what it was pre-2024. But the 5th of my 5 key factors here for Georgia in trying to win national championship in 2025 is that the Dogs have got to find a way to get the offense back to its explosive ways. And I know, like, the average college football fan out there hasn't really perceived Georgia as this high-powered, explosive offense, even since we started winning national championships back in 2021. And there was a time in the Kirby Smart tenure where that was true, like very early on. And even like, at points in the Jake Fromm era, 2017, we had a lot of explosive runs, not a ton of explosive passes. 2019, no, we couldn't do anything offensively. So there was a time when that was kind of somewhat true. Like there was something to that to a degree. But as often happens in college football, really all walks of life, what was true at one point, when people start to believe that, no matter what evidence is presented to the contrary, they never change their opinion. They just stick to it, right? And then they become victims of confirmation bias. They look for reasons to support that preconceived idea that maybe once was true, but it's no longer true. But the reality is, really, it started in 2022. 2021, like, we were explosive offensively, but we took it to another level in 2022, and we kept that going in 2023. Last year, though, it was a pretty big drop-off in terms of the explosiveness of the Georgia offense, which I do think is a part. There were many reasons why Georgia struggled offensively last year, as we've covered throughout the offseason. But the lack of explosiveness, the lack of playmakers on the outside, that was certainly a part of it, a pretty big part of that, to be, and in my opinion. But if you go back to 2021, I threw these numbers out there earlier this week. But I'm throwing it out again in case you missed that episode or missed that part. I'll throw a few other numbers at you as well. But in 2021, we averaged 5.3 explosive plays per game, and I define explosive plays as plays of 20 or more yards from scrimmage. And that came out to 8.5% of our offensive plays were categorized as explosive plays. So we'll call that, for our purposes here, our explosive play rate. An explosive play rate of 8.5%. 2022 bumped it up to 9%, 6.5 explosive plays per game. 2023 right at 9%. Again, last year though, we take a step back all the way to 7%, only 4.9 explosive plays per game. We're at 6.1 in 23, 6.5 in 2022. So yeah, it's not that we were the least explosive offense in the country. Look at Vandy in years past. Like Vandy was hovering around like 5-ish%. We weren't that bad in terms of the explosiveness of our offense, but we also weren't at the level we were at when we were doing the thing that we want to do and winning national championships. So that's where our program is now, right? Like we go into every season, you're in the preseason top 5, your ultimate goal is to win a national title. That's not a realistic goal for every team in the country, but it is a realistic goal for Georgia with Kirby Smart at the helm every single year. And the fact is, when we were winning national titles, and in 2023, I know we didn't win it, but I still think, I'll take this to the grave. I would still argue to anyone that we were the best team in the country that year. Yeah, we screwed up and it was our fault. We lost to Bama in the SEC title game. It is what it is. But if that was a 12-team playoff in 23, I think we win it. All right, whatever. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. But when we were at our best, 21, 22, 23, yeah, great defense, of course. And that's what everyone kind of like identifies Georgia with, is like great defense. But yeah, we had great defense, but we also had really explosive offenses too, certainly in 22 and 23. Last year, we didn't, right? And that's a big part of why we did not win a national championship. Like, we were still good enough to win the SEC, a really good SEC. We're still good enough to get the number 2 seed in the college football playoff. But at the end of the day, we just couldn't generate enough explosiveness offensively to help us win some of those games that we had to win. To beat Notre Dame, right? We had one big explosive play in the first half to Arian Smith. We needed more of those. Those shots were there. We got to take them and we got to hit them, right? But last year at 7%, let me give you guys a frame of reference here, right? Kentucky was at 6.5% last year. That was their explosive play rate. Georgia at 7%. So we were hovering around the Kentucky range. And you know how bad Kentucky was last year. What about the teams that were winning national titles or contending for national titles that made deep runs in the college football playoff? Well, Texas was at 10%. Ole Miss, I know, didn't make the college football playoff. I still think that was a really good team. I know they screwed up and lost 2 games they shouldn't have lost, but their offense was at 10% explosive rate. Ohio State was up there around pushing 9%. Again, that's the range we need to be at, 9 to 10% of explosive play rate in order to win national championships. So we just weren't there last year. So we got to find a way to address that issue. And it doesn't start right now in fall camp. That started back at the end of the season, December, January, when the transfer portal opened, and we said, okay, we got to go find some playmakers out there. You go out, you get Noah Thomas. You go out and you get Zachariah Branch. We talked about how Noah Thomas is already making waves in the early parts of fall camp. Zachariah Branch is doing a lot of the same things. Colby Young coming back from his midseason suspension, right? That's going to be a big part of it. So I think it's really going to help us there. I think we have some explosiveness in the backfield. So I think we have a number of weapons that are going to help us be more explosive. I also think, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I'm going to say it again. Gunnar Stockton. I know not everyone's a believer in Gunnar right now, but one thing that he does really well, I know it's a small sample size, but I've seen it in games, I've seen it at practice, I've seen it in a G-Day scrimmage setting. One thing that he does better than Carson Beck, we need to see it for a longer string of games, but he throws the ball vertically down the field with more accuracy than Carson Beck ever did. Carson was really good in a lot of ways. Now, we know last year, certainly it was a sophomore slump for him, but Carson, even last year, when the pocket was clean, when things were clean around him, he was lethal in the intermediate range, in the middle of the field, between the hashes. Outside the hashes, vertically down the field, that wasn't Carson's game. I'm not saying he never hit one. He hit some, but not enough. He missed a lot of layups. Even some of them that he hit, you underthrow him, and it was, okay, cool, it's a 30, 40-yard game, but it could have been a walk-in touchdown if you hit the guy in stride. Gunner's already shown the ability to hit those balls down the field at a much higher clip, a much higher rate than Carson did. So you merge that with the enhanced talent we have at receiver, the explosiveness, the playmaking ability that we've added to the receiver room. I do think there's legitimate reason to believe that we will be more explosive. I expect us to be more explosive, but the reality is we need to see it. It needs to happen. We need to take what I believe is a clear high level potential to be explosive offensively and translate that into actual explosive production on the field. That will be a big part of getting the Georgia offense back to being what the Georgia offense was in 21 and certainly in 22 and 23, as well as one of the better offenses in the country. I know people hate Mike Bobo. I know that, guys. I don't want to get in that argument here. We've had that discussion many a time, and I'm sure we'll have it again throughout the season. But hate the guy or not, the numbers don't lie, okay? Across the board in 2023, Georgia was a top 5 offense nationally. And I'm not cherry picking stats. You pick the stat, guys, essentially across the board, top 5 in the country, okay? Whether it's, you look at raw numbers, whether total offense, but who cares about that? The efficiency numbers, yards per play, scoring, points per drive, points per play, top 5, pretty much across the board. So we know that we can do it, right? We just didn't have that explosive punch last year, and we need to get that back. If we do, I think the Georgia offense will be just fine in 2025. All right, coming in at number 4. I honestly, like this one, I mean, making these, I always tell you guys when I do these top 5 lists, they're hard. Like, should this be at 4? Should that be at 2? Like, where should I have these? They're tough, right? But I gotta put them somewhere. So this one could be a lot higher, and if you think it should be higher, I really wouldn't argue much with you. But coming in number 4 is that the Georgia defense has got to find a way to replace the lost pass rush production from last year's team. Guys, we were really good rushing the passer last year. You all saw it, right? Jalen Walker wins the Blitnikoff Award in large measure because he was a dynamic pass rusher. Yeah, he played off the ball at times, did some good things, an off-ball linebacker, but what that guy did was terrorize quarterbacks, right? He did in like high-profile situations. Texas had multiple sacks there. So, yeah, we rushed the passer well, and it wasn't just Jalen Walker. You have Mike Williams. Chaz Chambliss had a career year. A guy who spent his entire career just getting beaten up by everybody in the Georgia fan base, and like we did our fair share of it here on the Glory UJ podcast. I'm not going to lie. But last year, Chaz took his game to another level. 6.5 sacks, tied with the Blitnikoff Award winner for the team lead in sacks. And in total last year, we had 37 sacks as a team, 2.64 sacks per game, which was the second most in the Kirby Smart era. It's the second most total sacks and the second most sacks per game in the entire Kirby era. The only season that we surpassed those numbers was 2021, which obviously we had a generational level defense. They might never see the likes of that at Georgia ever again. Had 49, by the way, 49 sacks in 2021. Yeah, we did play an extra game. There's that. But, I mean, there's a 12-sack difference. We're going to make up 12 sacks in that one extra game that we played. So 2021 was crazy. But last year, we rushed the passer really well. And that was, we've been doing this podcast for going on 11 seasons now. Now, we're just getting to the video side of things for the past year or so. But we were on the audio side for 11 years. And all you longtime listeners who we love out there, one of the things I've been talking about for years with the Georgia defense in particular is, like, yeah, we're great defensively. We have all this great talent. We're one of the top defenses nationally pretty much year in and year out. But the one big issue we've had, especially early on in the Kirby Smart era, was we didn't rush the passer well enough. And a big part of that was schematics. We put more of a premium on first and second down of stopping the run, getting teams in third and long, and then we get really exotic from there and make things hard on them. But we didn't rush the passer that well. That changed in a big way in 2021. And what happens? Oh, yeah, you win a national title. 2022 with Jalen, with Carter there, you still have a really strong pass rush. Weren't as good in 2023. Last year, we were back up there at 37 sacks. So we've gotten better rushing the passer. That's the good news. Well, the bad news is we lost our top 7 sack guys from last year, okay? 37 sacks a year ago in total for the Georgia defense. We lost 29 of them, whether that's graduation, NFL, or transfer portal. 29 of the 39 sacks. Not a math guy. Y'all know me, not a math guy. I can do that math. That's 78% of our sacks from last year are gone, out the door, no longer on the roster. Okay? And if the goal is winning national championships, which at Georgia, it clearly is. I don't think you can argue that point. If that's the goal, we're going to have to beat a lot of really good quarterbacks to get to that point, especially now in the era of the 12-team playoff. It used to be you win 2 games in the playoff and you won the national title. That ain't the case anymore. Hopefully we don't have to play in the first round, but who knows how things work out. You could feasibly have to play 4 games. And chances are, if you're talking about the college football playoff, that's probably 4 pretty good quarterbacks. And that's not even talking about how tough it is to get through the SEC, that gauntlet, and play the types of quarterbacks we're going to have to play in the SEC just to earn the right to get into the college football playoff. Having to play teams like Texas with Arch Manning. I know people are hating on Arch, but the guy's talented, okay? DJ Lagway at Florida, you got to play them every year. And Lagway, I hate to say it, if he's healthy, he's the real deal. Austin Simmons at Ole Miss, there's some questions there, but I've seen enough of him think, okay, this guy is really talented. Maybe Ty Simpson at Alabama ends up being that guy this year. So we've got a number of tough quarterbacks on our schedule this year. Haynes King's not a great passer, but he's a good quarterback. On our schedule this year, to get to the college football playoff, we're going to have to be good quarterbacks. Once we get there, we might even have to be even better quarterbacks, right? And you know what? It's going to be exceedingly difficult to beat all those teams with these really good quarterbacks if we can't consistently affect the passer. You might find a way to win 1 or 2 of them, right? Like maybe you just shut down the run game. Maybe you're really explosive offensively. Maybe there's a couple turnovers. Maybe a special teams touchdown. Whatever it might be, you can find a way to win 1 or 2 of those games. But again, if the goal is to win national titles, you can't just win 1 or 2 of them. You're gonna have to win 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them, right? So you're not going to be able to do that if you can't rush the passer, right? The Mannings, the Lagways, the Nussmeyers, if you get to the SEC championship or the college football playoff, the K Klubniks, those quarterbacks are too good if they have all day. They're going to pick you apart, right? We have a great secondary, but you can't cover them forever. You can't. The rules favor offensive football. But what is the great equalizer? The great equalizer, when you're talking about trying to defend elite quarterbacks, is havoc, wreaking havoc in the backfield, speeding the quarterback up, making them see ghosts, making them hear footsteps that aren't actually there, making them panic in the pocket, forcing them into decisions they wouldn't otherwise make because they got all the anxiety there, sitting there in the pocket. And you don't need to take my word for it, guys. I've said it a couple times this offseason. All you have to do for evidence of this is go back to the Super Bowl last year, the Eagles and the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs offense, we know Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Right? We all know that. But the Chiefs offense was all out of sorts all game long from the first drive of the game. Why? Because they couldn't block the Eagles. They had 6 sacks and I don't know how many QB pressures in that game. That was the equalizer. Mahomes is great when he has a clean pocket, even if things break down a little bit. But when you're consistently harassing the guy and you're generating all sorts of havoc, can't let that happen, you got a problem, all right? You got a problem, and your offense is not going to be able to operate at the optimum level, right? So that is why it's so important. We've got to find answers this year to replace all that lost pass rush production. I'm hopeful that we do have some answers. And I do think that we have some answers. I just need to see it on the field before I fully buy in. Ella Madozie, we've talked about him several times throughout the offseason, coming over from Army. That was the premier pass rusher that we went out and got from the portal guys. One of the better pass rushers in the portal in the offseason, in that spring window. I would have loved for him to be here in the spring so we kind of hit the fall just running. Not the case right now. Now he's going through what guys like Noah Thomas went through in the spring, just your head spinning, trying to learn the defense and trying to get adjusted to how we practice, and you're trying to earn a spot. That's tough, but the guy's absurdly talented. His explosiveness off the ball, his bend. My question was physicality against the run, but I'm hearing really positive returns in that regard. So I'm very hopeful that Madozie can be a big part of that answer. We need him to be a big part of that pass rush equation. Gabe Harris, whether he's playing 5-tech or Jack linebacker situation, he's going to be a big part of that equation. He's a good pass rusher. Chris Cole, you know how much I love Chris Cole. Love this guy. He's not a carbon copy of Jalen Walker. His body is built very different than Jalen Walker, but he has the versatility like Jalen Walker did, and that's going to allow us to use him in a variety of ways: third downs, standard downs, rushing the passer, off the ball, playing the star position, do different things and move him around. And he's a really good pass rusher, explosive off the ball, good bend, got good length, more length than Jalen. I think he can be a big part of the answer. His running mate, his fellow sophomore linebacker, 5-star guy, Justin Williams, the number 1 linebacker in the country in last year's class. That guy is just shot out of a cannon. As explosive as Chris Cole is, as explosive as Jalen Walker is, man, Justin Williams might edge all those guys out. You got Quintavious Johnson in year 2. Expect some good things from him as kind of a depth piece there at outside linebacker. I think we have a chance to have more in pass rush from the interior of our defensive line with a guy like Jordan Hall coming back healthy, with another year of development for Xavier McLeod, who I thought did some really good things and created a lot of havoc late last year when Christian Miller went down with injury. I think Christian Miller is a incredibly talented defensive lineman. I think he could work himself potentially in the first round conversations, but to do that, he's going to have to probably be able to show that he can give some more pass rush from the interior, which I think that he can. So I think we've got potential answers. We just have to see it. And we got to have it, guys. We've got to find a way to generate pressure because you just can't win a national title without it. I just believe that, guys. There's too many good quarterbacks you're going to have to face, and you can't beat all those guys unless you have a way to affect them and make life difficult on them. So that's a big key for Georgia, in my book, in 2025. All right. Coming in number 3, I thought about having this a little higher, number 2. Ultimately settled in at number 3. It could be number 2. But we've got to stop the run more effectively and more efficiently defensively than we did a year ago, particularly the quarterback run game. And guys, this is not me ripping on our defense from a year ago. It's not that we were bad per se stopping the run. We weren't. We were, like, relative to the rest of the country, we were good stopping the run. But again, Georgia's goal is not to be good. Georgia's goal is to win national championships. And the reality is, last year, and also a little bit of a degree in 2023, but certainly last year, we weren't national championship good against the run the way that we were in 21 and 22, certainly. And I got some numbers to prove this for you guys. So 21, like, it's not fair, really, to compare our run defense to what it was in 21, because, again, like, the defensive linemen that we had there, I mean, guys, all-timer. Like, it's crazy what we had up front. You know, between Trayvon Walker and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter there, Devontae Wyatt. I mean, like, guys, it was an embarrassment of riches there. But the fact is, in 2021, we gave up, on average, 2.56 yards per rush. 2.56 yards per rush, guys. I repeat, 2.56 yards per rush. 78 rushing yards per game. That was number 1 nationally in yards per rush allowed. Number 2 nationally in rushing. I'm sorry, take that back. Number 1 in the SEC, number 2 nationally, behind Wisconsin, was really good stuff to run that year. In 2022, 2.88 yards per rush, 77 rushing yards per game. That was good enough for number 1 in the SEC and number 1 nationally. Did take a step back in 2023, gave it 3.77 yards per rush, 113 rushing yards per game. That was still 3rd in the SEC last year, 3.71 yards per rush, but 129 rushing yards allowed per game, which was only 8th in the SEC last year. So again, good, not terrible, like not bad at all, but not national championship good, not 2021, 2022 good. I'm not saying that we have to be that good. I don't think that's reasonable, but closer to that if we want to win national championships. So I think the key for us, guys, in terms of the run here, it's stopping the run on 1st and 2nd down. That's always been a big focus of the Kirby Smart defensive system, even going back to Alabama. The idea is stop the run on 1st down, stop the run on 2nd down, get teams to 3rd and long consistently. That's when we bring in our dime package. We move guys around. We get exotic. We bring the pressure. We light people up. But we used to not light people up as much on 1st and 2nd down. That changed last year. We started to be more aggressive rushing the passer, like bringing blitzes and bringing pressure packages on standard downs. But part of that is his offense is starting to get wise to the Kirby Smart defensive formula. Like, yeah, they know Georgia won't stop the run on 1st, 2nd down. They're going to load up against the run on standard downs. So why would we just run right into that and play into their hands? Let's do the opposite of that. And instead of waiting to 3rd down to attack Georgia in the passing game and down the field, let's do that on 1st and 2nd down when they are loaded up to stop the run. And that's their primary focus, right? So we saw that a good bit last year. And honestly, with our run defense declining the way that it did last year, and a little bit also again in 2023, but certainly last year, our 3rd down conversion rates were down because of it. If you go back to 2022, guys, we only allowed our opponents to convert 26% of their 3rd downs. That was the best in Power 4 football, number 2 in the country. We were behind Marshall that year. In 2023, we were at 25% on 3rd down conversions. That was the best in the country, not just Power 4. That was the best in the United States of America. Last year, again, not terrible, like not good, not bad, good, pretty good relative to the rest of the country. But at 33% on 3rd down conversions, that's not national championship good, right? That's not where we need to be. And if we don't have the high quantity of like legit natural pass rushers, it becomes a lot more important for us to get teams to those like third and obvious passing situations, because then like we don't have to worry about the run. We can pin our ears back. We might not have as many dynamic pass rushers as we've had like last year, like losing the top 7 guys from last year. But the guys that we do have, if they know it's an obvious passing situation where you got Elo Madozi and you got Gabe Harris and you got Chris Cole and Justin Williams, that would set us up to also affect the quarterback more consistently than maybe we otherwise would, which would go back to also helping us address that fourth key there that I laid out for you guys a few minutes ago. And in particular here, we talk about the run game. I actually had somebody, it's coincidental timing here, had somebody hit me up on social media, I think today actually, asking about like what can we do to fix the issue stopping the QB run game. And that's something that I talked about a fair amount in the offseason. Like, it killed us. We got to find a way to do it. And that was a major problem for us, guys. I got some numbers here to back this up. So if you look at Alabama last year, they rushed for 173 yards against Georgia, 5.4 yards per rush. Not acceptable, not good enough. You're not going to win national championships with those numbers. 117 of those 173 rushing yards against Alabama last year came from Jalen Milroe. Okay, yeah, QB run game. Ole Miss, Jackson Dark run the football. Also, remember in the first drive of that game, he hurt his ankle. I think it was ankle, knee, one of the two. So he wasn't really healthy. He was kind of banged up in that game. But they still ran for 133 yards against us. Only 3.7 yards per rush. But 50 of those 133. So over a third of them came from Jackson Dart. A banged up Jackson Dart, by the way, who averaged 6.3 yards per rush. Georgia Tech, guys, they rushed for 260 on us last year. 5.5 yards per rush. 110 of those came from Haynes King at the quarterback position. Notre Dame, 154 yards rushing, 4.2 yards per rush. 80 of those came from Riley Leonard. UMass rushed for 226, 5.7 yards per rush. Unacceptable. And a big part of that was UMass ran offense that was very similar in style to what Georgia Tech and to a lesser degree Notre Dame ran, right? With the quarterback's ability to run the football, even though the UMass quarterback wasn't as dynamic of a runner as Leonard or King, his ability to run created all sorts of issues for our defense. And the biggest issue we've had with these mobile quarterback guys, and I've talked about it ad nauseum for years now, it's all about our eyes. Our eyes are all over the place. Incredibly poor eye discipline. The Alabama game, guys, I did a film study video on it after that game last year, and I laid it out for you guys. I thought that was forever. You can go check it out if you want to. But guys, it wasn't that Alabama was just like physically dominating us up front. That's not why they ran for $175. It's because our eyes were all over the place. We were so wildly undisciplined. Our coaches would set up and have a guy like, and I hate to rip on him because I love Malachi, but it's a play that always comes to my mind when I think about that game from last year, because Malachi Starks was one of our better players. He was one of the leaders on our team. He's a first-round draft pick, right? He's playing for the Baltimore Ravens now, probably going to start for them this year, right? Doing great things in camp right now. But we had a play in the first half of that game, right? And Alabama, they came out and they struck early, struck fast, but we were trying to stay in the game, and it was a third down play, and we had it schemed up perfectly for Malachi. We had him schemed up one-on-one as the contained guy on Jalen Milroe. All right, his job was to watch Jalen Milroe. If he pulls it, you've got him. You've got contained there. Malachi glanced inside at the mesh, took one half false step inside, and when you're talking about a quarterback as athletic as Jalen Milroe, that's all the guy needs. That's all he needed. Off the races, touchdown. Not just first down, touchdown. Those are the kinds of things that have killed us. You go back to Auburn in 2023. Remember Peyton freaking Thorne pulling off 50-plus yard, not touchdown runs, but 50-plus yard runs down the sideline? Eyes. It's all about eyes, guys. Misdirection with the QB run game, it kills us. Misdirection, but also the fact that they get the +1 in the box. That makes it hard on us because we like to play with a too high safety shell. We like to play with that to maintain that structural integrity on the back end, to limit the explosive plays in the pass game. It's harder to do that when you have a quarterback that can run the football, because that creates a +1 scenario for the opposing offense in the box. And you got to counteract that in one of two ways. Either A, you're just dominant up front so you win your one-on-ones, or you have a big space eater inside that eats up double teams, right? We had that in 21. We had that in 22. We haven't had it at as high of a degree in 23 and 24. So if we can get back to that up front, where maybe Jordan Hall or Namdi Boko or Nazir Johnson at the zero tech and eat up double teams consistently, or maybe Christian Miller, Xavier McLeod are just winning one-on-one consistently, and creating havoc in the backfield, well, that could be an answer to that problem. If not, well, then you got to roll safeties in the box. And that's problematic because that means you're giving somebody one-on-one coverage on the outside, right? And last year, we didn't have a ton of faith in our cornerbacks. Certainly, Julian Humphrey outside and Daniel Harris should agree. We had more faith in Dalen Everett as the season went on. But if you don't have faith in the back end there to man up one-on-one, you're going to have some issues, right? So there's a number of reasons why we struggled there. I'm hopeful with our ability. I think that we're going to be better up front this year, right? If you remember, we were so banged up, which we'll get to in a minute, so banged up, at least the first third of last year on the defensive line. Christian Miller misses the last couple games of the season. He was one of our better defensive linemen. We were just so banged up, and we didn't have a Jalen Carter, we didn't have a Jordan Davis type guy, and so that made it more difficult for us up front. We weren't consistently demanding double teams, right? We weren't consistently winning one-on-one, like on a down-in, down-out basis like some of those guys were when we were winning national championships. So I think we have more guys that are capable of doing that this year. Xavier McLeod showed the ability in flashes last year. Christian Miller has shown the ability to do that when he doesn't have to play 75% of our defensive snaps like he did at times last year. Jordan Hall is a former 5-star. I think he has that potential if he's fully healthy back from the injury, which it seems like he kind of is right now. So I think we've got some guys up front that can help us there. But at the second and third level, we've got to play with more eye discipline. And we also do a better job of getting off of blocks. We do a really good job of attacking blocks in the run game sometimes, but we don't do a great job of getting off of them. It's almost like we're magnets to the blockers. And I get it. You want to go attack them, so you get your hands on them first, right? You control the blocker, but you also have to shed them. You have to disengage and then like make the play on the ball carrier. And we don't always do a good job of that, so I would like to see us improve there as well. So I think there's some reason for optimism and us getting back to being better against the run, but we've got to find a way to improve against the run, guys, because if not, we're going to have a hard time on third downs, have a hard time winning the national championship and accomplishing that ultimate goal. All right, coming in at number 2 here, I got 2 more for you. Number 2, this one's not going to take very long, guys. This is pretty simple. I don't have to really break this down much. At first, this was going to be number 5. Because I was like, it's not really like an X's and O thing, so let's have it come in at number 5. But the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this might have been the biggest reason why we didn't win the national championship in 24 and maybe arguably 23. Think about the SEC championship game and Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey both being on basically one leg. And I have on very good authority in the tunnels after that game. Neither one they just couldn't walk. Like they had to be helped to the locker room. Like that's how bad it was for them. And it's not to make excuses, guys, because everyone deals with injuries. But number 2 on my list here is if Georgia is going to win a national championship this year, we've got to stay healthy. We've had incredibly bad injury luck the past 2 years. And guys, it's caught up to us. And I would also add this. We've got to stay healthy and stay out of trouble. Key players cannot miss games because of suspension. We can't have Colby Young miss half the year because I don't want to rip the guy, because he made a very poor decision, right? We can't have situations like that, right? And I know some of you are probably saying like, dude, you're just making excuses. Well, guys, let's listen to some of this. All right, we only started the same 5 on the offensive line 3 times last year. We had 3 healthy defensive linemen for the first third of the season. We had guys like Nazir Stackhouse and Christian Miller playing in some games like Kentucky, playing like 75 to 80% of our defensive snaps. Ideally, we want our defensive linemen playing between like 30 and 35% of our defensive snaps. They're just worn out, right? We were banged up. Then Christian Miller, when we get some guys healthy, Miller gets banged up late in the year. And then Mykel Williams he goes down week 1 against Clemson, came back and played later in the season, but was never, ever fully healthy, not even close to it the rest of the year. Trevor Etienne was awesome when he was healthy for us last year. Dude missed 5 games. Combination of injuries and suspension that week 1 game. Smile Munden, veteran linebacker for us, missed 4 games fully, parts of 6 games. Dylan Bell missed 2 games. We had nobody else that could really play X besides him. He wasn't even truly an X receiver in the first place. But our top 2 guys to come into the season at X, at least who we planned to be our X guys, they both had off the field stuff. So Dylan Bell has to move from Z to X, and he misses a couple of games. And that's just the scratch on the surface, guys. We were so banged up last year. Again, I go back to 2023. Like Alabama, they beat us, man, in the SEC title game. It is what it is. But our chances to beat them, if you think that we lost by a field goal, would have been a lot better if we had a healthy Brock Bowers and a healthy Ladd McConkey. I mean, I know Ladd didn't get drafted in the first round. He was essentially a first-round draft pick, but 2 guys starting in the NFL now. If we had like 100% versions of both those guys, we lose by a field goal, it's reasonable to say we easily could have won that game. That's not how football works. Every team deals with injuries. But the bottom line is, guys, injuries have caught up to us. We don't have the type of depth that we once did because of that combination of the NIL and the transfer portal. Like, we don't have 2021 depth. We don't even have 2022 depth. We still have better depth than just about everybody in the country, just about, but we don't have an edge there like we did when we won those back-to-back national titles. And again, it has caught up those last 2 seasons, so I don't know the answer here. It's more like just a luck situation. Hopefully that pendulum swings back in our favor and the injury luck actually favors us as opposed to crushing us like it has the past 2 seasons. And then finally, guys, now I did do a video on this exact topic, a full video on this, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you can go back and check the video out for maybe a more detailed look at it. But for me, guys, coming in the season, if you ask me what is the key for Georgia to win national title, well, I've laid out 4 of them. But the number one key for me, if Georgia wants to get back to winning national championship in 2025, is we've got to find a way to run the football more effectively and more efficiently than we did a year ago. And I've laid these numbers out for you guys before. I'll do it again in case you're just finding the podcast for the first time. I know we're getting newer and newer listeners every episode. But guys, last year, we averaged 4.06 yards per rush, 124 yards per game. That is 60 yards per game below the previous per game average in the Kirby Smart era. We were 15th out of 16 teams in the SEC in rushing offense a year ago. We were 11th in the SEC and 84th nationally in yards per rush, that 4.06 number. We were 3 games last year. We rushed for 80 or fewer yards, 6 games where we rushed under 110 yards, and 6 games where we rushed for under 4 yards per rush. Not acceptable. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It is truly miraculous and a testament to the willpower of our coaching staff and our guys last year that we somehow found a way to win the SEC championship with those type of rushing numbers. It's crazy. I don't know how we did it, guys. It defies logic, honestly. In fact, the 4.06 yards per rush was 124 rushing yards per game. That was the lowest both yards per rush and total rushing output of any SEC champion since at least 2003. That's as far back as I can find, guys. So we're talking almost we're talking like 20 years. We're talking like 2 decades, guys. It's crazy stuff. So yeah, last year, some way, somehow, miraculously, we found a way to overcome the rushing offense woes and still win the SEC title. But guys, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen again. Like, we can't count on that happening again. That was a miracle last year. Don't know if you can count on that again. I'm not counting on it. Now, fortunately, I think the prognosis is pretty good here, okay? I'm confident it will get fixed this year. Because, guys, again, I know not everyone likes or loves Mike Bobo. In fact, I know most people out there, a lot of people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of people hate the guy. I get it. But we ran the ball well in 2023 under Mike Bobo, the same guy who's going to be calling plays this year, the same guy that was calling plays a year ago. We finished inside the top 3 in the SEC in both rushing and yards per rush in 2023. So we have evidence that the guy calling plays last year and this year can get it done. So, we have evidence, guys. Like, it's there. But last year, what happened? Well, combo of injuries, inability to run the ball from the quarterback position, not really posing a threat there, and a lack of playmakers at wide receiver. Those things combined to make it really tough for Georgia to run the football a year ago. And I'm optimistic about our chances to improve our run game and get back to what Georgia football does, because all 3 of those areas, injuries, ability of the quarterback to run the football, be a legit part of the run game, more playmakers at receiver, I think all 3 of those areas should be dramatically improved in 2025, which gives me confidence, by extension, that the run game at large will improve dramatically this season. But it has to, guys. Like, right now, I'm hopeful. I think we have legitimate reason to believe that the run game will improve, but we need to see it translate to production on the field. It has got to improve, guys, because I love Gunner. I do. I've come around on him. I absolutely, as I've been saying all offseason, I think that we can win with Gunner Stockton at quarterback, but every quarterback has a specific skill set. And I'm not sure that Gunner Stockton's skill set is the type where he's a QB that you want dropping back to pass the ball 35 to 40 times a game without the benefit of the run game and just slinging it around the field. I don't think that's Gunnar Stockton's skill set. I think Gunnar's much more of, okay, let's run the football, play action, take some vertical shots down the field. That's what I feel more comfortable with Gunnar. So if we don't fix the run game, I mean, you can just go ahead and kiss it goodbye, guys. And we're not going to win national title this year if we don't fix the run game. We have got to get back to Georgia football, establishing that downhill, physical run game, working play action vertically down the field, creating explosive plays that way. If we can get back to that identity that helped us win national titles, then absolutely, we are capable of winning a national title in 2025, but we've got to do it, guys. We've got to get back to running the football like Georgia runs the football under Kirby Smart. But all right, guys, there you go. Those are my 5 keys to Georgia's national championship hopes in 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And like I told you guys at the beginning of the show, if you're a diehard Georgia fan, I think you can see now, this is what we do. We produce content for you guys, diehards out there. So go ahead, subscribe right now, turn those notifications on. We've got a ton more content coming your way. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, all that stuff, guys. We do greatly appreciate it. But thank you so much for being here. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.